When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling, and you'll sing Vita Bella. Hearts will play tip-tippy-tay, like a guitarandella.
Right, so this is Ash's build. It's an 800 horsepower build. It's got our stage 3 engine build. So that's our rods, JE pistons, Tim Radley ported head, which increases flow on the cylinder head. It's got Supertech valves, Supertech valve springs, ACL rod bearings. It's got a JDY crank seal. So the reason why they get upgraded crank seals on cars that are running over 2 bar of boost, this is a stock crank seal. What happens is when you're running over 2 bar of boost on these, the stock crank seal is really thin. So what happens is, because crankcase pressure goes up with the increased boost, this just folds and it folds back, and basically it starts leaking oil out from there. The upgraded crank seals from, this is a JDY one. Our friends over at IROS also make really good ones as well. They've got a seal with a spring around the inside of the seal, and that seals to the crankshaft a lot better. So when you're running 2.5, 2.7 bar of boost, it doesn't, the crankcase pressure doesn't fold the seal back and cause oil to leak out from there. So definitely need to do the crank seal upgrade if you're running over 2 bar of boost for long-term applications. It's also got upgraded intake manifold with runner flap delete. So the stock manifold has got runners here which control part throttle conditions and cold start conditions. When you remove them, obviously you get increased flow. It's also got a Tim Radley cylinder head. The head gets ported on the intake and the exhaust side to maximize flow. 4 bar map sensors. The turbo that we use is an SRM 8264S Zonar core. Use it with the Venturi elbow when you're fitting a turbo and you're looking to make over 650 horsepower. You want as much or as less of a restriction on the intake and the exhaust side as possible. When you've got too much restriction on either side, it does cause premature turbo failure because the turbo is struggling to suck or push the air out if there's a restriction. The cores that we use the stock wastegate on this setup. This is a car that's being set up for pump fuel, so we expect to make around 750 horsepower on this setup. On ethanol, we expect to see around 800 horsepower. This is the charge pipe we use. Of course, it is getting water methanol injection kit. This is a Leo charge pipe, really good charge pipe for high boost applications when we're running over 2.5 bar, and for a more bulletproof solution, we use the Leo charge pipe. They've got bungs inside the charge pipe for the boost signal and for the methanol itself. The downpipe we've had ceramic coated by Zircotech. So this is an STM downpipe, very similar to the IROS downpipe. Ceramic coated to reduce or keep the heat inside the downpipe. When you keep the heat inside the downpipe, it speeds up the speed of the exhaust gas. Intake wise, it's getting an integrated engineering intake. Intercooler, we use the STM intercooler. It comes with the Garrett core. IROS also make these intercoolers with the same style of core. Great intercooler. But yeah, once again, when you're looking to fit a hybrid turbo and you're looking to push over 700 high boost levels, you want to reduce the stress on the turbocharger as much as possible. That means getting a really good intake, a really good intercooler, a really good downpipe, a really good exhaust. This is getting a JDY titanium catback exhaust. We will show you that later on. really nice exhaust, and I think that's about it. So this car was actually running 680 horsepower for about 2 or 3 years. It was a car that we built back in 2020, but it is now back for a little bit more power. So we've made some tweaks, and Ash is hoping for something near 800 horsepower. I think it will make around 750 on pump and meth. On ethanol, we will see closer to the 800 horsepower figure. But let's see how we get on. Stephen's going to drop the engine in today, and hopefully we will have it onto the dyno tomorrow.
When the stars make you drool, just like a pasta fazool at amore. When you dance down the street with a cloud at your feet, you're in love.
So the upgraded manifolds are a lot larger inside. This is a stock manifold. So as you can see, inside the manifold, there's a really small area where the air can actually get through. All of this is kind of blocked off. You would think it's going to be completely empty inside, but it's not. It's basically acts like a baffle to reduce a lot of the intake noises. On the upgraded manifold, you don't have this. It's just completely open. See it from there. And on the runners, that is the inside of the runners there. They usually have a flap inside them. In cold start and part throttle conditions, the flaps remain closed or partially closed to tumble the air going into the engine. What that does is smoothens out the engine and means it doesn't run as rough. So obviously on the upgraded intake manifold, or the upgraded runners, sorry, we remove the runners, which increases flow at top end.
Yeah, isn't he, man? Ah, you're all good.
Another thing I forgot to mention about the upgraded manifold and the runners, they have O-rings in them to seal against each other, which the stock manifolds don't. So the stock manifolds tend to leak more at high boost levels, whereas these seal way better than the stock manifolds, so you've got less boost leaks to worry about, or loss of boost even. I don't really smell fuel.
You never? There's always fuel when you're priming. Nah, you can't.
I don't smell any fuel.
No, they're usually nice to smell. It's not getting like mixture or something, something's not...
Good diagnosis, bro. Time to get the laptop out.
As you can see, because it's trying to come.
Engine building, intermission.
I don't know, right, so what am I going to say? Right, can you Google this just to make sure? Let's go.
Yeah, you're right in what you're saying.
Let's go, let's make sure.
That's just like tomorrow.
Right, let me see. I really want to unopen this before I can't cut it in, so I just need to pure rag it. Let me see. You always pure look at me when I'm filming. You have to start filming now, right? No, cancel it, right? I'll put everything on. Okay, a lot to go through, so I don't want to... Touch my leg. So funny with this shit in here.
She looking for another man. All the sauce of hand. As you go to Japan.
He said it's Israeli or something. I mean, you look a priest.
recap of what was going on there. The injectors weren't firing, probably because it was apart for so long. We sprayed brake cleaner into the intake manifold, which persuades it to start and gets the injectors to start firing, and obviously it started right up. This is something I learned a long time ago when working on this engine. Sometimes the injectors just decide not to fire. It must be some sort of safety on the ECU or something that prevents that, but all good.
Successful. First time.
This is the dyno we use, guys. It's a Maha 4-wheel drive MSR 500. It's capable of 2,500 horsepower. It's obviously set up in the ground with bed that's adjustable through a remote. We put the cars down, adjust them, adjust the wheelbase. This is the same dyno that Brabus, AMG Project 1, ABT, seen one in the Lambo factory as well. A lot of the German car manufacturers use this dyno. Actually, there's a video on Bugatti's Instagram page where they use this dyno to dyno the Bugatti, which as we know is around 1,600 horsepower, and it comes in within 5 or 10 horsepower. My personal 720S, I've dynoed it and it comes in at 720 horsepower. Commonly known that the 720S makes apparently 720 wheel horsepower, but on my dyno it makes 720 crank horsepower. If you go on YouTube, look at 720 figures on other dynos, they make ridiculous numbers which are not realistic. So I like this dyno because whenever a car rolls at the factory, put it on a dyno, it tends to make what it should. Cars don't tend to be wildly out from manufacturer specifications, and my dyno kind of shows that. But yeah, this is a dyno that we use. It does show lower figures than other dynos, but again, I tend to find that translates to better times on the road. It tends to be more accurate, and if all of the big German car manufacturers are using this dyno, there must be a reason for it. Another thing I wanted to show you guys was following on from our last video, was it the last video about the meth? So this car's obviously just came from road test, we moved it to the dyno. This is a temperature gun. I'm going to show you the temperature on the manifold. It's 65 degrees, and that's it just come off from a road test. Obviously the air's going through the grill and the car's being cooled as it would on the road. At the moment, the meth is not set up on this car. We're gonna do some low boost runs just to bed the engine in, and then Kamal's gonna fit the meth kit. Once the meth kit's fitted on the dyno, which is usually a hotter environment than a road, I'm gonna show you some back-to-back runs with the meth kit on and with the meth kit off to show you the difference it makes with engine cooling. So this will be a pretty cool comparison. Alright guys, so what we're going to do now to show you the meth in action, I'm going to do one pull without the meth spraying, and then I'm going to do another pull with the meth spraying while Stephen is holding the temperature gun on the intake manifold. That will show you the best representation of water methanol injection in action. So Stephen, if you hold this over the manifold. So a little bit about how we run our engines in. We run them in on the dyno, start with about 1.7 bar boost, start running the engine in, make sure everything's sweet, there's no teething issues on the engines. Then from there, we slowly crank up the boost. Whilst we're running the engines in, we're looking for a lot of engine braking. With engine braking, you're creating a lot of vacuum within the cylinders. That allows the piston rings to seal to the engine block correctly. What you're not looking to do after freshly building an engine is let it idle for too long without any load. You're also not looking to drive it on the motorway at the same RPM for extended periods of time, because what happens then is that the piston rings haven't expanded correctly because it's not under any kind of load. So because they haven't expanded, they bed to the engine block incorrectly, and what happens from there down the line is you get increased oil consumption. So that's something that you don't want. The main things we're looking for when we're setting up a stage 3 car, especially when it goes straight to the dyno, make sure the fueling is correct, it's not running too rich, not too lean. Make sure there's no heavy knock corrections on the cylinders, and the rest of it is just dialing in the target boost and ramping in ignition. On this car we'll be running around 18 degrees of ignition with meth, around 20 degrees of ignition with water meth and octane booster in the tank. Ash doesn't want to run ethanol in the car, so we're setting it up as a road car so it can be run with octane booster and meth. The thing with ethanol is you need to upgrade the fueling system to support it, so it would need a bigger in-tank fuel pump. This car is still on the stock fuel pump. The reason why you need to upgrade the in-tank fuel pump is with ethanol you need around 40 to 50% more fuel pump flow to make the same power, because you need more of the ethanol to make the same amount of power. So this car is not going to be running ethanol, but yes, looking to set up a fast street car. Wastegate clip, don't drop this. So what we're asking the turbo to do by adjusting the wastegate, making it tighter, is to make more boost. Because we're using a stock wastegate on this. Springs are pretty weak in the stock wastegate. Now the hardest part is putting the clip back on. I think a lot of people don't actually understand what goes into a setup like this. It's not just fling a lot of parts on and it's done. It takes a lot of work, and it's easy to make a car that's fast. What's difficult is making a car that's going to be reliable, because you're taking a car that's designed for 400 horsepower and it's now making double the power output that it was rated to from the factory. So you need to look at everything and ensure that it's going to be a reliable setup. You know, I don't want to be seeing customers here every week. It's no good if you've got a broken car. We like to set cars up and hopefully not see them for a year or two until they're ready for the next upgrades. So yeah, not all fun and games.
That's map one.
That's map 3, but it's not dialed in yet.
That's alright. That'll do, donkey.
That'll do, donkey. That'll do.
Trapping like the narco. Got dope like Pablo. Cut throat like Pablo. Chop trees with the Draco. On the north got Diego. Say hasta luego. We'll be in rapping kilo. Snub nose with potato. Straight out the jungle. This real rap no more. My skin black like mama. Got stash spots in Honda. Don't know none now. Young nigga know too much now. Bop, 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 that'll slow him down. Yeah, yeah. We pick up the Hondos, then drop him off to Honcho.